Hey guys, what's going on? Sincere here with Anon Radio Live and the All Rights Matter show. We apologize once again because everything failed tonight. Broadcasting software, Skype, laptops, but we're still going to bring you an excellent show. We have Brandon Curtis of the Idaho 3%ers. We have Deb and Staff Sergeant Moe here with us from Pete Santilli's channel. We have a lot of information to bring you guys tonight, so make sure you're sitting down, make sure you have your popcorn or whatever else that you're going to have, because we're going to be discussing everything real that's going on. This is none of the troll language that's out there on the internet. This is all real talk and real conversation. Are you there, Brandon?
Yeah, we're here.
All right, Brandon, good. I don't know if you can tell, but I want to get right down to business. I mean, there's a lot to discuss. The siege, obviously, was done by the FBI within the last 24 hours. It just ended some hours ago. So the standoff, is over. And a lot of folks think, oh, well, that's the end of the situation. There's nothing left to focus on. Let's just go about our lives and wait for next football season or something. What do you have to say about that?
There's a lot that's happened in the last few days, and I was just reading a message that I got asking someone to mention they were busy setting something up and missed all the events that have taken place. So, you'd really have to be sleeping if you missed everything that's been going on the last 48 hours.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's just the video last night. I mean, in case there are some of our listeners out there that, haven't heard the news or anything that's going on, I believe the stream that Gavin had going on last night, Gavin Syme, I think his name is, or maybe Seam, but the stream had about 70,000, 80,000 listeners at one time. So it was a very big deal. It had no choice but to hit national media this morning. Of course, they twisted it the way they wanted to out of, 4 hours and probably about 45 minutes of streaming. They take a little 3-second piece of what the folks said there, but believe what David Fry said, and try to twist it around. But they missed all of, what happened. And there was a lot of prayer. There was just a whole conversation with Michelle Fior, who came in, the representative. There's so much to discuss. So this is what I want to ask you. You're there with Deb and Staff Sergeant Moe. What would you guys like to discuss first? I mean, we already know that, the standoff is over. I know that Deb has some things she wants to get off her heart. I know you have some things you want to get off your heart. What would you guys like to discuss first? I'd like to take this wherever you want to go right now.
Well, one of the things we can address is, let's talk about kind of what we might expect as a fallout after the fact. What we're seeing transpire with the multiple arrests that are being made, and just get that information out there.
Okay, definitely. Yeah, we are seeing a lot of arrests being made. One of the biggest arrests, Cliven Bundy. Now, the reason why that's a big arrest for everybody that's listening out there, because Cliven was going to come to the area and bring something that's very much needed at this time, and that's some unity and solidarity between all the different factions that want the same thing. They want a good, positive outcome, but at the same time, they don't want to stand down to the federal government because the federal government has been overriding us for so long. So Cliven was one of them, and there were others. Are there others that you know about, Brandon?
I believe there was 7 more arrests today. I could be wrong. We got a total of, looks like 6 arrests. And then there's 2 more that are additional, that the names are sealed, so we don't know who those additional 2 are.
Yeah, I can help you with that. Eric Lee was arrested today up in the state of Washington. Corey Laku-Oma, he's been arrested also. Neil Wampler, I'm less familiar with him. Daryl Thorne, I can verify he's been arrested. here in the state of Oregon. Wesley Kajar. And last night, simultaneously, when Clive Bundy was arrested, Jason Bloomberg was arrested in the state of Nevada at the Walmart, while with Clive and Bundy's main security guy. That story in itself is interesting. They were told to stop and put their hands up, and they were still tackled, even though they did that. The security guard, Jonathan's tooth got knocked loose and a couple of scrapes, just minor. And Jason Bloomberg was the one that was arrested, and Jonathan was questioned and then let go and has returned to the Bundy Ranch.
So these arrests that are being made, who is making these arrests? Are these state officials that are making them? Are they the FBI themselves? What level is this coming from?
It's the FBI. We also did confirm that Blaine Cooper was taken into custody last night as well.
Yes, sorry about that. Of course.
Yes,
and all these arrests are being done by the FBI. One of the gentlemen that was arrested, two gentlemen in a vehicle heading into Salt Lake City. They were coming back from Lavoie's funeral and stopped down in Vegas to pick up a trailer or something to that effect, and they got pulled over by the FBI on their way into Salt Lake. They did a traffic stop and took him into custody. So it is the FBI that's conducting these arrests.
And it's always a traffic stop these days. That or the Walmart parking lot. Watch out.
Absolutely. And I think another really important thing that we have to note here is not the fact that it's just a traffic stop. We have to note the fact that they're waiting for people to get out of the comfortable position. They're not getting them at home, if you will. So Cliven comes all the way into, I believe it was Portland where he was arrested. He comes all the way into the airport, and they wait for him to land to arrest him. And I believe as of recent, his charges just came out, and they stem back to the 2014 incident. Now, you know, they've known where Cliven has been for the last couple of years. He's not very secretive about where he's at and what he's doing. You know, I would think that it's kind of fishy, and the American people should see that, you know, what's happening here. You know, they knew this guy was coming into town. They could have, you know, done anything over the last couple of years to apprehend him if they really wanted to do that. But they brought up some bogus stuff from 2014 to impede his progress in the area of Burns and the refuge. So I think that's clear for any American to be able to see.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yep, there's a lot of fishy. It's very shady right now, very scandalous. And not to mention, speaking in terms of the shadiness and scandalous activity, is the 2 sealed indictments. You know, I don't know that you know, who those names are. And, you know, without giving them their opportunity to turn themselves in, without knowing they have a warrant out for them, they've lost their opportunity to make a decision on whether they should turn themselves in or not. I mean, there's rights that are lost when you have these sealed indictments that I find not only unconstitutional, but I believe in from one attorney that fought for Joe O'Shaughnessy. She pointed out and won and was able to unseal indictments that was illegal to have them sealed.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you have to think about also, and that was Staff Sergeant Moe, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, good. You also have to think about the fact that, you know, I'm sure when Cliven, you have to, you know, if we all put ourselves, just to use Cliven as an example, we can use everyone else too, but just Cliven. If we put ourselves in Cliven's shoes, when he got on that airplane, he knew nothing about any charges against him.
That's correct.
And by the time the airplane landed, there was charges. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're talking about here. Literally in the middle of his travel, after a couple years, all of a sudden there's charges. Before he got on that plane, there was not a single charge for that man.
Right. You have to remember, too, that it's been 2 years since Cliven, since the Bundy Ranch. And in that 2 years, the public has forgotten because Americans are fickle. That's just how it is. We become apathetic. We quit following a story. And people really don't care about it anymore. And you have to remember, too, that what Ammon Bundy did here was not popular in the United States of America. Everybody was split down the middle. Well, everyone could get behind his message and what he was trying to do. Hardly anybody was behind the actual taking of that refuge. So I think with Cliven, they saw this as a good time to arrest him for the Bundy Ranch because he doesn't have that public support that he had back then.
Oh, and to elaborate on that further, I mean, if you've noticed that certain representatives have stated that this is a virus, the Constitution, and the education of that is a virus, and it must be stopped. So now we have, they have evolved a new public narrative calling the Constitution, the education of that, and the message that they're trying to get out a virus. That's the narrative on that side.
Yeah, I want to key in on that. That's one of the main things that I wanted to talk about as well, is because with all of this going on is I don't think a lot of people understand, when we live life kind of linear. We, we go to work, we come home, we have dinner, the family, and we do the same thing over and over again. But I don't think a lot of people understand that that's not how the government works. They almost work in a timeless fashion and on different levels. So while we're all worried about certain things that are going on, on the ground, they are committing their psyops and their live operations in the midst of everything that's going on. And with that entails a lot of data collection. And with that data collection, they use that for further purposes. Now, the same was true in 2014 at the Bundy Ranch. There was massive amounts of data on everybody that participated that was taken by the federal government. And the same thing is happening now. So we have a federal government that is hungry for power. That's all they want is more power, more control, and they want your submissiveness. And they will stop at nothing to get that. Now, the way they get it, they can either come in and do it, the hard way, which would be to shoot and kill everybody, but that's not very popular. So the more popular method of doing things has been through psyops, has been through marketing, it's been through taking their time, and that's what they're doing with this situation. People said, well, the FBI could have came in a lot sooner and ended the situation. They didn't want to. That's the whole point. They didn't want to because they are learning as we are growing. And the more that we grow, the more they learn so they can stop future developments. That's why Cliven was stopped as soon as he came into town. They're not going to allow that piece of the Lego puzzle to go into place because they know that builds everything that much stronger. So they stopped it. I mean, we're looking at a government that is so hell-bent on power that we have no other choice than the options that those four chose there at the refuge. And that this is not just for Oregon. This is for a lot of Western states that I'm just going to be the first to say this should be happening all over the place. People should be standing up everywhere.
Another PSYOP tactic I've noticed a pattern in, and it starts early on, and I noticed this right away with Skylar Barbeau up in Seattle, Washington. The FBI initiated contact with the media immediately and began their narrative and false accusations, never recanting, even though in his case it's developed to be all their accusations have been founded untrue.
And the other thing too, Sherrod, is what we're seeing is the due process is almost non-existent anymore. You have things going on, warrants being issued behind closed doors that are sealed, they're not being transparent. We've always had the right to due process. We have the right to face our accusers, and none of that's taking place when they act like this. They're doing indictments behind closed doors in the evenings when no one knows, and sealing the files so the attorneys don't even have access to them. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just getting out of hand.
Yeah, it's absolutely getting out of hand. Um, you know, I know that the listeners out there probably want to know this because you know there's this thing going on, and this is online, and you know we have to kind of address it. Uh, there's a rumor that there's so many indictments that are about to be handed out, maybe 60 something, 80, 70 something. Okay, 68. Okay.
Sorry, 86.
The rumor is, and the intel that we got, it's 86
Yeah, I'm
warrants
dyslexic.
at this point. None of that's been confirmed as far as the actual number or names or who that's going to be, but that seems to be the direction they're heading.
So let me ask you this, and that's where the direction I'm going in is with having that knowledge, and then knowing that about 7 people were just recently, you know, detained. What do you guys have worries? I mean, because and let me just preface the question with this: do you guys have worries because of the general involvement? Now, the Idaho 3%ers and the PPN, let's be clear, they were the buffer zone in between, if you will, the kind of conversational piece to go between and to help ease tensions. They weren't actually at the refuge, but you know, Deb and Staff Sergeant Moe, were you guys actually at the refuge?
Yes, we were at the refuge.
Okay. Well, let me say this. Now, I want to get 2 sets
Sleep
of
there.
answers from you. I want to get 2 sets of answers from you. You know, Brandon, are you nervous that within that list of 86 that your name could be in there, and not just your name, some of your men that were on the ground with you? And also, Deb and Staff Sergeant Moe, with you guys actually being at the refuge, just being there, are you worried that your name could be included in that list as well?
I'm, you know, there's concern there. There absolutely is concern. You know, I'm not going to say that there isn't. That's been going through my mind. However, at the end of the day, I know what our role was there. I know we were there for the right reasons. We didn't break any laws. We didn't, you know, we were truly there to try to support the community and try to open dialogue between the FBI because they weren't doing it, and Ammon and what his reasonings were. You know, that is a concern. If they decide to do that, then, you know, I'll deal with it in court. And, you know, it's obviously something that's not going to be able to stick. I mean, there's so much evidence and proof that shows what our role was and not being engaged or involved at the actual refuge itself. You know, and that's not a cop-out by any means. I'm just being straightforward of what our role was. We were very clear with what our role was from day one, and we never, ever wavered from that, period.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Deb and Staff Sergeant Moe, you know, how do you guys feel about that as far as, you know, them just doing, I'm going to call it what it is, a blanket indictment pretty much?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know what? I was really shocked when they came out with an indictment for Pete Santilli, you know, because he was there in the capacity of media. He, and not unlike Staff Sergeant Moe and Brandon, supported the message, but didn't support the takeover of the refuge. Mm-hmm. He was clear about that from the very beginning. And I think that's why people are nervous right now, because even though you don't support what they did, and you supported their message, you still and you said things to try to be that buffer, like Brandon's group organization was. People are still getting arrested because that's exactly what they're arresting Pete for. That's what they're holding him for. That's what they're charging him with. They're saying that because he was there and he supported the message, it didn't matter that he never had a weapon. It didn't matter that he had never spent one night on that refuge, or, for that matter, very much time on it as compared to mainstream media, who some did spend the night down there. Oregon Live, they spent the night on the refuge, inside the refuge, inside the buildings. So, and when we stayed with the other media inside our car and froze. You know, it was cold. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It was extreme bitter cold, below zero cold, those first few days we were there. So, you know, yeah, there's some concern when you can arrest someone like Pete Santilli, who was there in a citizen journalist role, a talk show host role, who is an activist, who does believe in the principles that that Ammon Bundy stands for. He supported the message, but he didn't take part in the actual seizure of the refuge or have any part in that, nor did he agree with it, but he still got arrested.
And in Pete Santilli's case, as the judge was very, the government was presenting to the judge was more historical content on past shows prior to the occupation, which he did not support. But prior to the occupation, they were viewing things in his court case videos that from the Pete Santilli show of him speaking about the no-knock warrants and debating that issue, and that was enough cause for concern for the judge to feel and determine that he could be a concern as a flight risk and a risk to federal law enforcement. He was very specific about that. He even specified that he felt comfortable that he was not a risk to local law enforcement, as he saw evidence of his being compliant. However, he ignored the fact that in the last video he viewed, he was being arrested and compliant with federal law enforcement. So his actions should have spoken louder than words, yet he is still being detained and not given the opportunity to be released where he can work on his case from the outside for his words prior to. So, I mean, it had anything to do with the occupation. But yet, yeah, his role was there as media. And yes, I can testify to you that he did not spend anywhere near amount the time as mainstream media got with Ammon Bundy and the rest for their interviews. And I might even think that I had a little bit more time in Ammon's office at times. Yeah, I sat in there for hours. Yeah. And Pete was outside sometimes waiting. Yeah.
So the FBI was very selective when it came to Pete Santilli. They targeted him. They wanted him They wanted him. They wanted to arrest him. They wanted him to be part of this, and so they connected him any they could to conspiracy.
So yes, there's caution and concern.
Yeah, and I think you guys should have that concern, rightfully so. There's a lot of folks that, we're not going to get into the rumor mill here, but there's a lot of folks that have a lot of rumors about Pete Santilli's involvement. But I'll tell you this, he's always been the same Pete. You can go on his show and look at his show for the last few years, and he's the same guy on his show that he was at the refuge. So whether you like him, love him, hate him, it doesn't matter. He's the same person. And, to start assuming that, he's some kind of agent or anything, he wasn't. What I see in this case is, federal officials decided to selectively use his material and against him, against everyone that was there, and then on top of it, not allow him the access to be able to defend himself because he's locked up now. I'm not sure. Is he still in the conditions like Ammon was as far as 23 hours a day locked up?
No, he was released into general population yesterday.
Okay.
But I'll tell you what.
Well, not full time. They get 4 hours.
Right.
And they're all getting a variable amount of time in general population now.
And you
all
really
of them.
still can't work on your case, in general population. I mean, the most effective case that you can work on would be, of course, having a bail set so that you can get out and meet with attorneys and, do it the reputable way. We know that he's not going anywhere.
Right. It makes it really tough on him, and it makes it really tough on me too. But they did selectively pick Pete. He poked him in the eye. Absolutely. He called them names. He has been for 4.5 years. And not only there, but with the FBI, but with the BLM, the local sheriff in the town, the judge in the town. He was continuously calling him out. So yeah, Pete is definitely being targeted because of what he said and not what he did, and even the ACLU agrees with that. And
I'd like to also speak. I'm a witness to this. Early on, when Pete was at the Memorial Building. Is that what it was called? I'm already forgetting the names.
Oh, the Fairgrounds
The
Memorial
Fairgrounds Memorial Building with Deb Jordan. I began to make a few of the phone calls with the numbers I had once the names came out of those who began to occupy. And one of the first ones I talked to was Jason Patrick and then also John Ritzheimer. And both of them told me, we want Pete. We want him here. We want him here now. We need these things recorded. And then later that night, when we eventually made our way to the gate, I was there and witnessed with Ammon speaking to us. They wanted Pete to record this in a media type. They understood that he wasn't going to join or stand by their side, shoulder to shoulder, anything like that. But they wanted him to record everything, that he had the resources for it, and they wanted him. And that was his role. That was his role, and strictly only his role. Pete would never have done anything else other than that. He was very clear about it, and they respected it, and they needed only that from him. And they welcomed me with that as well, only to share the truth and be transparent. And with Pete's resources and Deb Jordan's resources, that was their primary need.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think
So,
go ahead.
sure.
Go ahead, Deb.
Also, you say there's a lot of rumor out there about, well, they're using Pete Santilli's video against him and against everybody else. Mo's right. They told Pete that they wanted his camera rolling all the time. But it wasn't just Pete Santilli, though, they told that to. They also told that to mainstream media and several other bloggers and independent media outlets that were down there that were rolling their candles.
A documentary, too.
Their cameras 24 hours a day.
Yep, direct TV.
So,
A documentary
and
crew?
even HBO was down there and down in the refuge filming for a mini documentary. And they were there for 2 or 3 days. And they got a lot more footage than we did. And believe it, the FBI has looked through every single bit of that footage, too. They have.
Wow, wow. So, I mean, I believe we're all sensible adults here. So I believe we understand how they're using, how they're selecting their people as far as who they want to give indictments to. Anybody that really just stands up for truth, freedom, and liberty and speaks out against federalization is a target. Now, mainstream media, who we all know here, most of them are bought and paid for, and they'll twist the story to whatever narrative fits whatever company they serve. They're in the area, they're taking the stories. Obviously, their names are, upon the list that your names are on as far as people that have visited the area. But yet, I guarantee you, as far as the mainstream media personnel go, none of them, not one of them will receive a single indictment, including the person that even David Fry said was there as an embedded reporter for the documentary that should be coming out in a year.
Well, and my question is this. We do know, in fact, that there was a reporter or reporters from Oregonian Live that stayed up there, stayed the night. And, why are they not being targeted? That's a very typical liberal type reporting and newspaper. So, does that fit in the narrative in the box of the federal government? So they're going to leave that reporter alone because, it's okay because they're go to that side.
Because they were obedient to the narrative?
I mean, it's ridiculous that they're being so selective.
That's exactly why, because they were obedient to the narrative. You couldn't have said it any better. And
Yes.
that's what this brainwashing thing across America is all about. If listeners out there, listen real good. If you go home every day and turn on the media, I don't care if you watch ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, or anything else, if you turn on the media and take that as factual knowledge and you spew that to a bunch of people and they speak the same quote-unquote factual knowledge to you, that does not make you a smart person. These are corporate entities that are telling you what they want you to believe. You're being groomed into an official narrative. And once you step out of that official narrative, you become dispensable because they don't need anybody that's not going to go along with the official narrative. So that's what you're watching. You're watching a bunch of people that are pretty much getting in trouble with the federal government because they decided we're sick and tired of the official narrative and we're going to do something about it, whether we're going to stand up and protest at the refuge, whether we're going to go there to help and just give journalistic point of view from an activist standpoint, or whether we're going to provide buffer support, or whether we're going to just do online radio shows.
All legal activities.
That's right.
And they're all under attack. How many amendments are now under attack? Honestly, I think the entire Constitution is fully under attack.
Well, not only is it under attack, it's being eroded.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And being defined to meet their narrative when it conveniences them.
Right. We spoke today about, it wasn't just Ammon Bundy on trial, and it wasn't just Pete Santilli on trial, and everybody else that's been swept up in this. The Constitution is on trial. Mm-hmm. This is one of the biggest things that has happened in current history, mm-hmm. and we all need to take heed. And people should really think about how divided they are, and maybe do something about that before we lose everything. This will set precedents for many, many, many years to come if some of this stuff is allowed to stand.
Yeah, and with that, the division that we've all witnessed throughout not just the Patriot community, but our entire nation, culturally, racially, religion divides, etc. I think it's time that the people start to recognize we all have very similar grievances. And maybe we should all unite, not just the Patriot community itself.
Yes.
But all Americans, because you know what? We really need numbers, don't we? We need numbers of people that are not just keyboard warriors permanently, but we need people who are willing to get off their asses and get out there. I'm sorry, am I allowed to cuss on this show?
Yes, you are.
The first one to break through on that barrier, wasn't I?
No, that's okay. You're fine.
But anyways, get up and do something outside of your computer. And there's many ways, and Brandon was reminding me of that. There's many ways to show your support to America and our grievances and speak with your voices. And it's not, if you don't have a voice, if you're not comfortable with that, Brandon, what are the ways that people can do besides talking like I talk?
Well, it's hard because all the avenues people are using, they don't want you using your firearms because you'll be arrested for that. They don't want you protesting because you'll be arrested for that. So now we're down to our talking, our First Amendment, and now people are being arrested for that. So it's getting to a point where they just want to squash everything, And I know we're sitting here carrying on about all these things the government's doing and makes us sound like we're anti-government, and we're not. That's not it. We just don't like what the government's doing because the government has gotten so big, they're out of control. And something needs to be done about that.
I have something to say about that, actually.
We do keep numbers. The things that we do that don't seem to be working because of the end result of the arrests. If there were numbers of people supporting, whether it be monetary or getting the information out there educationally, more Chris Ann Halls out there, more Pete Santilli's out there, which there's a growing number of, and more monetary support if you're unable to arrive at events, and arrive at the events in mass numbers, not just with the Patriot community, but let's start welcoming in all Americans. And let's go against the toxicity of the government, not the whole government, but the specific grievances that we have, and let's fix the government together.
Absolutely, and I definitely have something to say towards that. You guys, see, that's why I love all you guys there so much, is because we all have the same mind, and it's not just us, it's the people that are listening to us right now too. They have the same mindset, they have the same principles, and they want the same things, they want the same outcomes, they have the same goals. That's also another reason for this show. It's called the All Rights Matter Show. It removes all the division, all the barriers that would tend to separate us and leave us apart and not, getting to that common goal together. So That's the very reason for this movement, All Rights Matter, #ARM. Now, you guys hit on something that was very key, especially you right there at the end, Staff Sergeant Moe. You said money. That's a key thing, and it's something that Brandon was saying, well, they're coming after this, they're coming after that, the protesters, your freedom of speech, they're coming after all these things. Now, one thing that we still have access to, and the one thing that we've never done as a unit all together, and I'm going to say it, I've said it before on another show, but I'm going to say it to you guys since you're in the room with us, is we haven't brought the money together. Now, the example I gave before is very clear and very simple. It's $1 a day from 1 million pissed off patriots for 365 days. That creates $365 million. $1 a day, 1 million pissed off patriots for 365 days. That's it.
An amazing number. That's amazing. And let's remember that the government, even the good side of the government, seems to want to protect its entity, its existence, and they are exhausting resources, deep pockets. They have tons of money still, yet they want to make us this. Yeah, and
the point.
We
that's
need
exactly
to bring
the point. We have to take back control. Now, the protesting, I have a what I guess you could call a radical view on this protesting thing. We've been protesting and standing in the streets too long. People are cold, tired, hungry, feet hurt. Anybody got time for that? So I'm gonna be honest with you. We have some very wealthy people out there, and once we start putting their minds together with the influential minds through the activist community and the people that with the boots on the ground, we can create that 1 million man army to create that first $365 million, to create those first learning centers and community centers that can start popping up around the neighborhoods, where we can control the education that goes into our children's mind. We can control the kind of doctors we want in those community centers because we're paying for them. We can stop asking the government to change, and we can make the damn change ourselves. We don't have to keep asking those people. They're not going to do it. It's not their agenda. It's not their priority. It should be our priority. That's why the forefathers handed us the country, because it's our responsibility and not theirs. But we keep giving that responsibility to them when we need to take the responsibility from them through our economic power. Our economic collective power is what will end the tyranny that's hanging above all of us. But we need unity before we can do that. So what do you guys suggest in that avenue as far as unity is concerned before we can get to that economic standpoint and say, you know what, let's get this 365 million and get this thing going?
I'm glad you brought that up, because you hit the nail on the head, Sherrod. We're at a point now that's critical, and it's so critical that there's so much division in the movement, and whatever you want to look at it, whether it's just the citizens on where they stand, there's so much division. And with this stuff going on the last 5 or 6 weeks, there's even been so much more division within the Patriot movement. And here's my take on it. The division has to stop. Everyone's going to have personal opinions, and it's like a big family, right? People are going to argue, bicker, and have difference of opinions, but that doesn't mean you divide and split up your family. It doesn't mean your family goes away. It doesn't mean you divorce your family and just, divide. We still have to stand strong. All organizations, and this is what I'm putting out there, all organizations that are in this movement, it's time for us to put differences aside, come together, shoulder to shoulder, stand in unity together, because if we don't do that, we will never win, ever, because we will become susceptible to the psyops, the division, the bickering, the drama, and it has to stop. And if you or anyone out there listening to this, if you can't put down your differences for the sake of saving this country and the Constitution, then you're not here for the right reason anyway. And I encourage everyone to do that. This is where we're at. And I don't care what organization you are. I don't care what color you are, what nationality you are. It's time for all of us to come together right now. And if we can't do it and come together in unity and stand shoulder to shoulder with a united front, they will always win. We will have a situation like what's going on right now every time. And if we really want to knock them back on their heels and say we're going to be back in control as a republic and the people, then that's what needs to happen. And all the big organizations out there, AP3, UP3, our national 3% organization, we're going to work hard. And all the little ones and all the big ones from East Coast to West Coast, it's time to stand together in unity.
Amen.
And if we do it for the right reason, which is to return our country back to republic and stand on the Constitution, then there's nothing to debate. There's nothing to debate.
We have to get back to God and country. We have to get back to God and country. We've gone too far. We're close to the edge of that point of no return. I think you would agree with me.
We are, and we're past the point of no return. Listen, man, and I can't put a cry out for help, if you will, mean it any more sincere than I do right now. People have got to come together. We've taken a lot of heat over the last several weeks about our involvement over here. I don't even care about that. The reason why we're doing what we do is because we care about the Constitution. No other reason.
Amen.
And the reason why I do these radio shows and Pete Santilli's live feed is to get the word out. That's the only reason, is to get the word out. No other reason. That's why I've dedicated my life, and everyone sitting in this room has dedicated their life to do what we do. And it's time for, everyone to do that. And I know people can't always come be boots on the ground and go to these different situations, but you can do stuff from home. You can help with the Patriot Railroads. You can help with getting information out and come together and unite. And I don't care what organization you are. I don't care if it's, it just doesn't matter. We all need to be coming together and working together in solidarity. PPN took a lot of hits because, there was so much disinformation out there. It's because people weren't unified. One of the big things I know, Sherrod, you and I talked about was, the fact, like, David Fry said he never talked to me or PPN on the phone. Remember that?
Absolutely.
That little comment created so much riff that people were stuck on that for 4 and 5 days and losing sight and losing focus of what we were really here to do. And sitting next to me is Deb Jordan, who sat there with me and talked to David. As a matter of fact, she brought me the phone, and I'll let her explain what happened to clear that up for anyone that has any doubts, because this will show you what the truth is and what everyone else bought into to create that divide. And that's time we can never get back when people are so wrapped up in the drama.
Yeah, absolutely. We did actually talk about that because, and I think it's very important for a lot of people to, also know this. As I was listening to that live feed on Gavin's channel last night and also this morning, there was a big thing that, I believe it was Sean that said it, but pretty much, he was very specific about the Idaho 3%ers and where's PPN and the Idaho 3%ers. And I kind of want to address that, and you kind of tell me your thoughts on that. But the way that I actually kind of took it is he didn't understand the role of what the Idaho 3%ers and PPN were actually there for. The role was never to be an offensive. These are defensive organizations in nature, to defend the Constitution, defend the Republic, to defend things, not to go offensive. So I believe you guys were very clear from the beginning, and other organizations as well, that, hey, we may not agree with the way that this refuge was taking over, but even though it was taken over in this fashion, we're here to assist with a peaceful resolution of the situation. And when I hear comments like, well, where was PPN or where were the 3%ers, I hear people that don't understand that they were there, but they're not there to provide an offensive. They're only there to help the situation, to be exactly what the title is, a buffer. So once that buffer was breached, if you will, by miscommunication and things like that, well, we were very clear through our show that PPN and 3%ers were still in town in Burns, and they were with the local community people and also providing support in that way. So folks have to get that notion out of their head that the PPN is comprised of a bunch of Rambo guys that are, just going to come hopping out of helicopters with their own tanks and start battling with armed forces. That's not what this is all about, and that's not how this works. If you're thinking that you're living in some kind of delusion. That's not how these grown men work. These grown men with families work. They provide a defense. So unfortunately, Lavoy was, killed. We have to, let Lavoy rest in peace at this point in time. We can't keep saying this person did it or that person did it. We have to say what the enemy did. The enemy did this.
It's on video who did it.
Yes, it's on video who did it. You can't blame it on any one person or any organization. It's on video. The man did not need to be shot, and he was shot. How many times have we seen law enforcement doing this? So let me, you guys give me your take on everything that I just said there.
You said it very well. There's a lot of blame going around, and people need to get off that. There's a lot of hate, and if you want to keep doing that hate, then get out of the movement and get out of the way.
That's right.
Because it's not going to get us anywhere. It's not. It's just going to create more discourse, more divide. And because the town is in pieces in Burns, we're still there on the ground. PPN and the 3%ers and several others and other organizations are still on the ground. We never left, and we never once said we were going to come in with helicopters, tanks, and hang gliders and air support and do all these things and engage this firefight. At the end of the day, I'm going home to my children, and it doesn't make me any less of a patriot. It doesn't make me any less of a man. If anything, I look at it makes me more responsible as a man because I have to go home and take care of my children to make sure they have a dad and they grow up.
You also understand there's another day to the fight, that if you end the fight today, and like a lot of folks were trying to tell the last four left, listen, today is not the last day. If you live to see tomorrow, then you have more fight for tomorrow. So you understand that as a responsible adult.
And every patriot has a different role. The role, you hit it earlier, Sharad, they didn't understand their role. They had a different role. Educate yourselves quickly. Start looking it up. Each organization has a different role. They have a different mission statement. Am I correct?
They do, and they also bring different assets to do different things. Mm-hmm. And people. The last night when that was all going on, and this morning when that was all being negotiated, and the FBI and it was being live streamed, I was getting so many messages. Where are you, PPN? Where are you? Go in there and save them. Go in there and save them. People need to understand. You just can't waltz in there with your night suit and your white horse, and it just doesn't work. And the other thing we have to remember, we have to take this back to the beginning, and when you take an offensive maneuver like that, and we all know that was an offensive maneuver.
Yep.
You take the choice away from the other patriots of how they're going to respond, or if they're going to pick that battle. You pick the battle for us, and all we tried to do was try to maintain a neutral ground for a peaceful resolution, because that's what divided everybody was, like you said, most of the organizations like ours and, the patriot organizations are a defensive organizations.
Can I take it one step further?
Mm-hmm.
People act like they forgot the words that Ammon put out. From his jail cell, he already told everybody, stand down.
He was sincere.
He was sincere. People didn't believe it at first when the lawyer said it, so he said it in his own voice. And that word got out. Now, this is coming from the man who's leading everything. If he's saying to stand down, that this is not the place and time for this kind of fight, it should be in everybody's mind, okay, this is what the leader said, this is what we have to do, because obviously there's more for tomorrow. Now, if 4 people take it upon themselves, and this is not to discredit those 4 people, but if they take it upon themselves to follow their own orders, well, that's up to them, and I'm not saying they should be left out there by themselves, but I'm saying kind of, what Brandon's saying. You've taken that choice away from everybody as far as how to move together cohesively, because you've decided to move on your own, ideas, even though the leader has already told you what to do to stand down. So, in any kind of normal situation, people would be able to see that. But where there's so many moving parts to this, that seems to be a little bit askew, that folks have forgotten what Ammon said, and then they've also forgotten what others have done, that hasn't been what Ammon said to do. He wouldn't have stood for that, and he clearly stated that he doesn't stand for it.
Exactly. And, I'd like to make this point, we supported the message, right? We're all on the same page. We didn't agree with the execution. We supported the message. So once Ammon was taken into custody, things started to wind down. The message went away, in so to say, from the refuge, right? So then it turned in from a peaceful occupy with the last four to an actual armed standoff. Yeah, and that goes against everything that we stand for. That goes against everything that we do. And even though we didn't agree with that and those last four up there, we still didn't leave.
Because you didn't want them.
Because we didn't want them to perish. We still cared. We still didn't leave. We still tried to keep eyes on. We still tried to do everything we could to maintain that buffer and monitor. And as much as we disagreed with them taking that stand, and I'm not going to condemn a guy for standing on his convictions and his beliefs. Don't mistake that out there. I'm just saying we don't agree with the armed standoff. But we still didn't leave. If we wanted to be, if we truly didn't care, we would have packed up and left and went back home and went about our lives. But
I think it's important too. It's very important to note that this did not start as an armed standoff, and people need to stop blurring those lines in their mind, because people are armed and they occupy a place. It's not a standoff. First of all, they've just occupied a region, and they have their firearms. That's their rights. So it's not an armed standoff, like as if when you would see like what the last four had going on within these last few hours, where that's literally physically an armed standoff. So when the buffer support was supplied, and when you guys went to the FBI and and things like that, there was literally people just going in and out of the refuge, like you talked about, the reporters and everything. So these reporters, they weren't feeling any kind of threat. They weren't feeling like they were in harm's way at any time. So this was not an armed standoff. This was simply an occupation of people who were armed, who just happened to be armed. And that's not something that has not happened before. We have armed protests that happen across America every day. Mm-hmm. So, that's not a crime. So we have to make sure that people put that distinction in their mind between what an armed protest is and what an actual standoff is. Because if we blur that line, there goes another quick strike to the gun rights.
Yeah, and just because someone is exercising their Second Amendment right responsibly, open carrying their sidearm with it in a holster responsibly and safely, and they walk into a store or they walk into a building or whatever the case would be, it doesn't mean they're an armed militant, they're not an insurgent. You can still peacefully protest and exercise your Second Amendment right responsibly. And this is where the media has really become irresponsible, all the mainstream media. And last weekend in Boise, on Saturday, we had our memorial for Lavoie. And I spoke in front of all the media, and I called every one of them out. My local media, who always comes to me for the interviews, they always come to me for the information. And I told them how irresponsible they were. Every one of those media outlets used the word armed militants and insurgents, and how dare they, and how irresponsible they are to put such lies and deceit in the public perception. It's their fault for a lot of the way things are going as far as how the public perceives the Patriot movement. And it's really important that people understand that and not buy into that. And it's a part of our job as patriots and being responsible leaders in this movement to educate people how that is going.
Yes, our government rewards the death of investigative journalism. Our government rewards folks on that very handsomely. But true investigative journalists that go out there and they look for the facts, and reporters and things like that, and talk show hosts that look for the facts, those people in a society where they're going against the status quo of what the government wants it to be, those people are being demonized. And I think we're seeing that now all over the place, but that still doesn't mean stop. That doesn't mean get filled with fear. No, that means that we just need to come together, like Staff Sergeant Moe said, with numbers. We need numbers, but we need those numbers in a way that's cohesive with unity. We don't need anything but unity. We're looking for liberty. We're looking for freedom. We're looking just to exercise our constitutional rights, and we should be allowed to do that. I've placed my economic ideas out there, and we've talked about unity a little bit. What other ways do you guys think that we could come together? I mean, literally come together. I don't mean just an idea. I mean also physically come together in a peaceful kind of way. Is there something maybe we can do on the line of having rallies from different organizations within the big cities and start to just come together and maybe celebrate together a little bit and have education together a little bit, do something positive together to start building those connections?
Yeah, and that you're exactly right. And we're actually working on a national event for 4th of July weekend that, once that gets more solidified, we'll talk about it, get it out over the airwaves, but we're going to be calling for every organization to come together and unite over 4th of July weekend in D.C. Those sort of things are really important to do because the time is beyond. It's already passed. We got the FBI scooping up 86 people, allegedly for speaking their mind, a lot of them, media people for exercising their First Amendment right. I mean, it's just absolutely out of control.
Yeah, and and speaking of uniting, one of the advocates for Pete Santilli right now that are supporting Pete Santilli openly with an open statement, as well as advising and assisting his attorney, Tom Cohan, is the ACLU. That's a strange bedfellow, and I can let Deb, if she's in the mood, to speak on that more.
Yeah,
It's been an interesting journey.
We were really surprised that they came out with that statement. Pete is kind of an in-your-face kind of journalist, and he has no problem calling out mainstream media. And he really got on the Oregon public broadcasting guy that was out there one day, and that guy finds himself now defending Pete because he knows how important this is. So there is some unity. Excuse me, there is some unity that's happening, and we're really hopeful because we see that.
Yeah.
Pete went to Baltimore and stood with the people there and protested. It was a lot more dangerous than being at the refuge. Being in Baltimore was a lot more dangerous. There were helicopters flying around. People were getting pepper sprayed, tear gassed, and
the refuge folks were just walking. Kind of, that's what I was alluding to earlier. Folks were kind of just there, if you will, on a daily basis, coming and going freely.
Yes. So it was a lot different than Baltimore. We were also in Cleveland under the same circumstances. It was very the threat of violence was all around us, and not by the people, but by the United States government.
And I think you keyed on something perfectly, that I want to clarify there, Deb. There's the common enemy. Now, if there's anybody better to say it, it's coming from you. Especially given the current circumstances and what Pete has given to the activist community. He stood on both sides, and he's reported what he saw, as any good investigative journalist / reporter would do. I mean, he does a good job at that. He's covered one of my stories before. But, it's a shame that, we perpetuate the agenda that's placed out there by these people that are, quote unquote, above us. And, when you have good people like Pete that can do things like that, it should be looked at in a way where it's middle of the road, right down the middle, and saying, okay, well, this is a good, honest guy. This is what he does. Let me go ahead and take some advice from this and learn from this. But instead, we're seeing in today's world where people are looking at, I guess they're just brainwashed so much, if I can say that, They're brainwashed so much where they either think completely right or completely left, completely black or completely white. And
That's right.
it is becoming, or completely rich, completely poor. And I mean, this toxicity that's happening throughout America, I think is really being perpetuated by the mainstream media. And, you know,
Yes.
it's really sad to see what's going on because, and I want to key in on something else. Let me see how I can say this. You know, I want to go back towards the racial thing, and I have to touch it for a second because when you talk about the violence that he was up against and how it was perpetuated by the government and not the
Yes.
people. Now,
That's right.
that to me it hits a soft spot where people need clarity there. I may have went off in a rant, but let me get to it. This is what a lot of us, and when I say us, I'm speaking for black people that look like me right now. This is what a lot of us want most of the folks that look like you guys in that room to understand is that very one thing. The violence that happens in our community that has always happened is perpetuated by those who impose their authority on our communities, whether it's through their taxation, their education system, their control of the resources, the economy, physical control through law enforcement. All of these things. And it's a stranglehold on most of these inner city and now some suburban communities. And this is what's going across America now. The truth of the matter is, it's not really a black or white thing. It's just happening mainly to black people because that's the way it's happened for so long. But these oligarchs don't care about black and white, and that's what we don't see as people on the ground. They care about class. So it's a rich or poor system, a have or have not system. So now, while we may want you to see and to feel our pain, in which you know you clearly do because you have Pete and you understand both sides of the coin. Well, where we struggle with the rest of America in seeing that, I believe that this situation, and unfortunately, Lavoy Finicum's death shows the lawlessness of law enforcement. The law enforcement is no longer in allegiance to us. They are now a part of the us versus them system. They are now paid by those who need protection from us. And the clearer that we can the sooner we can understand that, the clearer we can think when we maneuver for the future. Now, I know what I'm talking is dangerous because it's raw truth.
And
But
because it unites us,
it
all
does.
of us, and they fear it the most.
Yeah, and this. I mean, when you speak like this, I had the black trucks. I put out a story. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I had the black trucks at my house 2 weeks ago. This Friday it'll be 2 weeks ago, and they cut the electricity out on my street, and now my house has black trucks at it. Very interesting. So when you speak like this, you know, they're listening, but I don't care. That's why I've been placed here, because I can see the bullshit.
Yeah.
And that's what people need to start saying. They need to stand up and say, wait a second, man, I see that. You're not going to pull the wool over my eyes. You're not going to trick me. I'm not going to keep letting you vaccinate my children and fill them up with all kinds of chemicals. I'm not going to keep eating this GMO crap when healthier stuff doesn't require all the chemicals. I'm not going to keep complying to a tax code that, I gave you an example of $1 a day, 1 million pissed off patriots for 365 days creates 365 million. Well, they're taking $60, $100, $200 out of your check every week, and they're doing that to 150, 200 million people. So tell me how much money they really have.
Mm.
You understand what I'm
Ooh.
saying?
That's
That's
not
what's
true.
going on right now, and the people have wool over their eyes. They think that all these numbers that congressmen talk up there in Washington are real numbers. That shit's not real. It's all a shit show. Wall Street bullshit. None of it's real.
No.
None of it's
No.
real, and that's why we can create our own economy. We can create our own structures and buy up our own resources. We don't need what they give us. And
Wait,
we
are you
don't
talking about a reallocation of money?
Absolutely. I'm talking about reversing that tyranny that's been placed on us.
Amen.
Absolutely. It's time.
Deb has for us. Deb's got something for
You know
us.
what, Sherrod? When we were talking about, let's talk about a Malheur refuge versus Baltimore. Pete was in the streets of Baltimore. He was in the face of police officers. He was in the face of the National Guard.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the face of a lot of people and
they
really
were all
pushed
there.
it.
Yeah.
And we were there for 2 weeks, and he was yelling up a storm. He did exactly the same thing in Baltimore that he did at the Malheur Refuge. And nobody ever said not one damn thing about what he did there in Baltimore. Isn't that something?
And he ends
Nobody
up with
was
a
arrested.
federal indictment.
The people shut down downtown. They shut downtown down. You could not. There was thousands of people in the streets in Baltimore. You couldn't have moved. I'm not kidding. It was insane how many people were there. They shut down commerce. They impeded law enforcement. And isn't that the whole idea? When you're
Absolutely.
protesting,
Absolutely.
it's common knowledge in the United States of America that that's how people protest.
nature.
And when it starts turning to the point where you are going to be arrested for something you say, or protesting and being civilly disobedient, and entities like the FBI and local law enforcement and the United States government no longer has any tolerance for that, and if they're going to start arresting everybody, then we're not going to be allowed to protest anymore.
I have one
not
thing
every
to say.
protest turns into a riot.
I'd be curious to know, too, after Baltimore was done.
Well, hold on. Let me say this one thing. You're absolutely right about that, but we have to call out the one person who none of us have said her name yet, and she called for this to happen.
She did.
What's her
Yes,
name? Go ahead and say it.
Kate Brown.
That's right, Governor Kate Brown. She called for this to happen. I put out a video and I told everybody. They didn't like the way I said it, but I said, you know what? I said, Governor Kate Brown, she's the first open bisexual person in her position in America. We already know Obama's agenda. We don't even have to go through that. But I said he's going to answer that call immediately. I said he's not going to wait. He's not going to put her on the back burner. I said action's going to happen. And the next thing you know, unfortunately, Lavoy Finicum was shot. And that was to send a signal. And I'm telling you, we need to start calling out these representatives that are literally calling on these federal thugs to do things like this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it's interesting if it doesn't fit their agenda. So going back to Baltimore, it'd be interesting to know. We already know the answer to this, but after it was all said and done, did the FBI do a nationwide canvass to arrest 86 of those protesters? No, they didn't.
No,
they did not.
no,
That's
no
right.
further daily arrests. We're facing now daily arrests from the community that supported this. And I'm not going to just lay it only on the Patriot community, 3%ers, militia, and all that. I'm going to say American citizens standing up for the Constitution. And they're reaching far and wide for those that they feel are speaking their mind. And you know what it is? They're threatened because something was getting done. There was momentum. There is evidence that has been exposed and leaked of their wrongdoings.
Absolutely.
And they're threatened. And but with Baltimore, it was just a city problem, and it was squashed eventually. And so they just sort of went about their days eventually, and the locals asked, for it to stop, and it was kind of dealt with that way. But no further arrests continually throughout the United States, and you can't tell me it was just locals on the ground there. People from all over came.
In Baltimore, I actually covered Baltimore and some of it. Now, what they did do in Baltimore is there were further arrests within the city, and they had the people in a terrorized state. Now, it's the same thing that's happening in this agenda right now. Is the media comes in and they tell their side of the story. They give you a little, 4-second clip of audio out of 4.5 hours, and they make your brain think in that way. That's what they do. The same thing was happening in Baltimore. I still had people on the ground that were doing excellent reporting. And, the people of the city were being terrorized. They literally were. And these are federal entities we're talking about. Once the federal government steps into any situation, best believe they are not going home anytime soon. When they step into a situation, expect them to be there a year or two or more than that.
Yeah, and you reminded me of something else, another entity that was on the ground there. Patchless. Without saying or stating who they were, they gave no identification.
Who was it?
And one of them gave the fatal blow to Lavoie.
I'm sorry, say the name again?
Oh, I don't have the name, but one of them, a patchless, unidentified individual, gave the fatal blow from what it appears in the air, gave that fatal blow to Lavoie. And those were the unidentified individuals that are on the ground in Burns, Oregon now. So they're not only being terrorized by federal government entities, other agents that are identifiable, and local law enforcement, but they're also enduring something very new to Americans, which we call mercenaries, mercs. They're unidentifiable. They will not identify themselves.
You hit on that. So happy you hit on that. And, that right there, it lets you know where we are as far as where our federal government and how our federal government regards our constitutional rights. When we have literally mercenaries on the ground, patchless soldiers, we're living in something that you would see out of a third world. See, in the third world, this is common. There's a lot of contractors that go over there on the American dollar, and they perform war duties as American soldiers would without any insignia on. This is a practice that has been happening for a very long time. But that's something we haven't endured here in America, especially at the hands of our own government. And now that we're going through something like this, I mean, who's to say that anybody can't throw on a military uniform without some patches and stand somewhere and be a mercenary? So
and it's not legal in this country. In this country, we have laws against that. We have constitutional laws against that. That's an act of war.
Absolutely.
I'll just say it. Do you guys mind if I say it? That's an act of war.
Yeah,
okay?
Absolutely. Say what the truth is.
That's foreign. It's foreign. It's a foreign entity. It's an act of war.
Absolutely. And I saw a document floating around. I didn't get a chance to properly vet it completely with a constitutional judge on it. I don't even remember his name right now. That was talking exactly about that. That this is, it's pretty much foreign entities. And I believe he even said they were paid by the IMF or something like that. So, and that's the International Monetary Fund for folks that don't know, but
UN.
Through the UN, through the United Nations. So, for you folks that don't understand, we have our own military, and they're supposed to protect us. We don't ever want a situation in our future where we have United Nations forces on the ground in any capacities, whether they're in their little, I believe, white and blue helmets or whatever it is. or whether they're patchless soldiers. We don't want this. Now, I put out a lot of things on my YouTube talking about this because this is what the United States has been training all of these joint training exercises for the last 2 decades for, is just for these scenarios. So when these countries start coming in, and as we become a third world country, they already know how to move and operate within our environment. And I believe that's what we're starting to see the beginning of now. The United States corporation is doing its takeover.
It's a very good point. Yeah, very good point. And it might explain why we see the yellow fringes in all the flags of peaceful government offices.
And in the court system.
And in the court systems.
Yeah, it's I mean, you guys understand the symbology obviously too. See, that's why I enjoy speaking with you guys, because you understand the full message that this federal government is putting out. They're not telling us what their plans are, but they're showing us through action and symbolism.
And it's not even subtle anymore. It's not subtle.
No.
Close.
I think what's happened here in Oregon is going to send shockwaves through not only the Patriot community, but it's looking like the whole United States as a whole community. It's just, we've never seen anything like this before. People are going, whoa, you know, even the people on the left are saying, man, you know, this is something we've never seen before. Usually this kind of thing is contained, you know, to an area, and but not this time. I mean, they're talking about going all across the United States here and pulling people out of their homes and arresting them, you know, for having something to say or for being someplace, or, you know, and as far as it goes for the independent media, you know, people, I hope people don't become so frightened and so polarized that they stop covering protests and stop covering events. Because wouldn't it be a shame if independent media lost their bold voice?
Your last line of defense.
Absolutely.
It would be a shame. And how many people are going to go to an event and be able to and say what they need to say without worrying that maybe somebody in the background is planning a siege of some kind or something real stupid, and, you know, in the end you're going to get blamed for it and lose your liberty because of something somebody else did.
Somebody else who's trying to oppress you and oppress the rest of the nation. If you fear speaking out now, then you've already been oppressed. Shake the fear off. Stand up and rise and be courageous, kings and queens of your domain. You're Americans.
That's right. You couldn't have said it any better. It's really time to stand up and rise. We have, I believe we touched on it earlier, we have people from all different kinds of disciplines and walks in life, and they have different roles, you know, to all get towards the same common goal. And it's time to stand up in those roles. We have people out there that are great accountants that understand liberty. You can help with the financing of future movements and us getting our own structures and buildings. We have people out there that are great with food. Well, you can help in setting up communities that are centered around liberty. So the sooner we can all start to put our talents that, you know, we've all learned under this system of corruption, we can take that, what this corrupt system has taught us, and use it to rebuild the community that we also desire to have, that we never really ever got a chance to know because we've been under tyranny and corruption since all of the days that we've been born.
Another community under tyranny and corruption and great oppression, whom I hold dear to me, is the small business community.
Oh, absolutely.
The small business community need to begin to speak out against the bureaucracy that is holding them back from profiting.
Absolutely.
And in their pursuit of happiness. We need to speak to the hearts and minds of those skills that you were talking about, and some of them are ranchers. They know how to manage the land, not the BLM. I've seen what the BLM is doing to the land. Nothing good. hidden agendas is what that is.
Oh, yes.
So let's talk to our ranchers, let's talk to our small business communities, and let's talk to our left people, the people on the left who also desire freedom. And they love their free speech, don't they?
Not just the left. It's the left, the independents. See, that's the thing. We're going to remove, if we move forward in a unified fashion, there is no left, there is no right, there is only a center. And once you're in that groove and in that knowledge of the center point of real truth, okay, where there isn't 12 different stories to real truth. You see what I'm saying? So once you're in the center point of that knowledge, you can't have a left or a right. It won't exist anymore. So we have to get there.
Yeah, they want that to exist, but we're Americans. We're not right and left. We're not Republican and Democrats.
That's right.
Black or white. Jewish or Muslim, Christian, whatever. We are Americans. We are a melting pot. Let's act like one and get mixed.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not, everybody out there, it's not to say, oh, well, what is this? A radio show full of integrationists? No, that's not what we're saying at all, because that's not what the idea of liberty says. It says that you can have your own belief. You can believe whatever you want to believe, but it doesn't, mean that you don't have to still work towards the same common goals. It means you just don't have to infringe on somebody else's belief. You allow them to have their beliefs and feel the way they feel. You feel the way you feel, and have your different cultures if you want to. But when it's time to get the business for the common good, that's what you do. You get the business for the common good. And in America, we're not getting down to business anymore. And because we're not getting down to business, those who we keep giving our taxes to, they're getting down to business. They're getting real busy. And they're getting on that side of the paradigm where they're on the side of the haves. And they're not going to care too much about the have-nots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Which is exactly what's happening in Burns itself.
It's a
know what?
Wow. That is class.
For me, when I got there, it wasn't so much about the ranchers as it was what I saw what was happening in that town. And it is a clear-cut case of the haves and the have-nots. Yeah. Everybody works for the government there, and if you don't work for the government, you're a nobody. And do you know why? Because if you don't work for the government, that means that you're on public assistance, so you're still getting from the government. And the government is running the show there. The sheriff is a puppet, the judge is a puppet, and they're all puppets to the federal government. And the people suffer, and they have to hide. They have to hide how they really feel. They can't speak out. They can't do anything. Everybody knows everybody else's business, and everybody's afraid they're going to get turned in to the BLM for one reason or another. And that was my big thing when I got there. That's what I saw, and that's what I was standing against, and I still do.
And that division existed before the Patriot community came at all. That division, they were tearing each other apart verbally in atrocious ways. You know how trolls act online? Mm-hmm. They act like that to their faces. They degrade one another and consistently. And that was an existing problem before. They spoke to that in the community meetings before the occupation about how they do not take care of each other. That does not exist in their town. Wow. The divide was very deep, long before Ammon Bundy.
Wow. Now that's something that you really don't hear a lot about. I appreciate you guys giving that firsthand account of what you've seen and witnessed, there personally.
It was sad, actually. It broke our hearts.
That is sad, but you know what? That also that goes to it goes to speak to what's going on across America, because guess what? We're that same divide is happening in Baltimore. That same divide is happening in Ferguson. Right. Where the people are infighting now, and it's not just in. Again, I hate to keep saying that. I don't want to beat a dead horse. It's not just black or white. This is happening. This is America, people. This is what's happening across all of the states. You understand? This is systemic, exactly. So if you have something that you know is happening to your black brother, to your white brother and sister, your Spanish brother and sister, if you know that this is happening to everybody, is it not our duty to say, wait, enough is enough, stop. We can do something better. We don't have to go down this route. We can collectively come together, unify, and change the circumstances and situations. I mean, we have to get to that because it really doesn't matter anymore whether you're black, whether you're white, and kind of whether you're poor or middle class. Shoot, poor and middle class, we got to work together now because the rich folks they're doing what they do. They're starting to take over, and those who are just a little bit rich, well, they're on a puppet string right now, and they don't want to lose their little bit of riches, so they're not going to help you and I. Us common folks have to come together that still believe in our Constitution.
This broadcast needs to go viral. I mean, huge viral, like big time viral, as big as Gavin Symes' broadcast while we all watch the poor be tortured and ridiculed. I think this needs to go viral for educational purposes, like now.
And I think maybe, Sherrod, we should start a campaign and start doing shows, for unity and working together to get our message out and start that campaign. And I think the time is now to start doing that. And, we can't sit on the sidelines anymore looking across the playing field at the people on the other side. We all need to meet in the middle of that playing field, shake hands, join together. And I understand it's not all about holding hands and riding off in the sunset on unicorns.
No flowers.
But, the reality is we're not going to get anywhere unless we start working together at some level.
That's right. That's right, man. That's right. Well, you know what? And for you guys that don't know, that none of this show is scripted, if you will, or anything like that. I'm in my kitchen walking around trying to rummage through what's on the stove. So what Brandon is saying right now is something that's truly from his heart, and I'm sure, Staff Sergeant Moe and Deb feel the same way. And I certainly feel the same way. We do need to go ahead and start meeting at the center of, the road together and shake hands and say, you know what, we can do this. And as Deb was saying earlier, that's what they really fear the most is the unity.
You know what, Sherrod? We have sat down with Malik Shabazz and talked to him. And we have sat down and talked to socialists. And you know what? We don't necessarily agree with their ideology, but what we do agree with is that this government is overreaching, and that it's trying to stop their message, every message. And I think that's where people get it wrong the most, is that they think, the government props up, Black Lives Matters. That's not true. That's not true. I saw them struggle on the ground in Baltimore to get their message out. I saw them be beaten down with batons and pepper sprayed and have helicopters with gunners out the side whirling over their head. I saw all of that stuff. So you're not going to convince me that Black Lives Matters has it easy.
And they're better organized.
That's the thing. They are organized and they're resilient because they've been doing this since the Civil Rights Movement, and they've learned. And they know, like, the first thing they teach you is to write your attorney's number on your arm, so that when you get arrested and they take all your stuff, you have your attorney's number for that one telephone call. We learned that, and they taught us how to wear ribbons, so that when you look across, you can tell if somebody, and they're different colored ribbons, so you can tell if that person is with a medical team, or if they're with the media, or if they're with a safe home.
That's
all
right.
These different colored ribbons, and you memorize it so that you know that you know what you're doing, and you don't have to communicate with one another. You see it. Those are the things that Pete and I learned when we were in Baltimore, and when we went to Cleveland, and all these other places that we've gone to. We've covered, and we took a pretty big hit from the Patriot community because we did go to Baltimore and take a stand. We took a pretty big hit. We did.
And what they've been doing, what I see that they do, all encompassing, they'll go anywhere where there's an injustice.
Mm-hmm.
And that any American with an injustice.
That's right.
That hit from the Patriot community that you took, I don't want to really focus in too much on it, but
Sure.
I just want to know, like, how did that make you guys feel in a way? Like, was it a big shock to you when it happened that you took a hit like that, or was it?
It was shocking. It was completely shocking because the more we tried to reason with people that we were there because people were having their liberties taken away from them. There's constitutional. You know what? The people in Baltimore didn't even know about the Constitution. We were handing out Constitution booklets, little Constitution booklets. We were talking, and we were talking to the National Guard. We were asking them if they had never read the Constitution. And you know what? Most everybody we talked to had not, and
That's right.
they were like sponges. They wanted to hear about the Constitution. And I
Yeah.
really think if the Patriot community were to just open their eyes and just be a little bit more, have their hearts just a little bit more open, and instead of falling into that that race baiting
Mm-hmm.
trap that the government
Establishment.
and media put out there, and go anyway and talk to these people, they're going to find that they're a whole lot like them, that their differences aren't that much, and everybody is basically struggling against the same. Well, not basically, everybody's struggling against the same government.
The Oath Keepers in Ferguson found out the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They did.
It,
They did.
this division, man. This show, you're absolutely right, Staff Sergeant Moe. This needs to go viral because this is history. This is something that we needed to address this. We had to address this because if we're going to talk about unity and moving forward, how can we do that without addressing the grievances of both sides? So in doing that, I feel blessed in my soul, if I can say that, and in moving forward. And I know a lot of people that are listening to this, I know that they're probably feeling the same way, like this is what real is all about, and this is how we should have been talking a long time ago. But you know what? Out of every tragic situation, there's a triumph. And I'm tired of the government getting triumph and out of tragic situations, especially the ones they cause. It's about time that the patriot community, the American community, black, white, Latino, it doesn't matter. All these communities that believe in the Constitution of America, it's time that we get a win. It's time that we get a little bit of victory out of this tragic situation. So if there's any victory we can take away, it's this moment.
Sorry. You want a victory? We can free all those prisoners of war right now. We can free all those political prisoners right now together if we get organized and put the pressure on in multiple and various ways and exhaust all resources in multitudes. All Americans, not just the patriotic community. All those
Absolutely.
concerned for all of the Constitution.
Absolutely.
Put the pressure on.
And we have to talk about all the people now that are spread out. I mean, this started with the Hammonds. This is where, but even before then, there's the whole issue of the Bundy Ranch. So but when you talk about folks getting jailed and especially unjustly, and going twice like this, the Hammonds, and then you move it forward and you look at what's happening to everybody else. Did Pete just now? I don't know if we touched in on this or not, or if you want to. What exactly are Pete's charges? And this is what they're trying. I want to draw out a point here. They're trying to trump up charges on us. So what exactly were Pete's charges initially, and did they change from what he initially got? A few days ago.
He's been charged with the same thing that everybody else has been charged with, and that's conspiracy to impede a federal official from doing their job. And now we just found out today that he is likely to be indicted in Nevada over the Bundy Ranch situation too.
And this is the lawlessness that I'm talking about. This is how the people say, if we just have the federal government come in to fix the police system, well, then they can federalize the police system and everything will be better. And I keep telling people, I'm screaming from the center of my soul, no, no, no. You're asking for borderless police. That's what you're asking for. And that's what we see our government doing. They don't care where you're at. They're going to get you wherever they want to get you at any time for anything. And that does not feel like America. That feels like we're all locked up into one big cage without any state borders. So
Yep. They'll take their time too and build their case on you when you don't even know you're breaking the law, and the littlest thing you didn't even know was a law that you broke. They'll take you in when they've had enough of your voice.
yeah, and that's absolutely true, and that's something that they've done to many Americans. They plant evidence. They always plant evidence to set people up, or they over exaggerate a situation and then get the media behind it to skew how it looks. Just like they're doing with this situation, that armed militants took over the refuge and they held it for 41 days. That's not even true. So they over exaggerate to control the general perception through the public. And that's what we need to keep in mind is this is an information war. This is an information war. And you people that are listening to this right now, you should have a good feeling knowing that you're on the right side of this information war right now. You're on the correct side of it. Because when you listen to that media, you're paying $130 a month for a bunch of BS. Stop paying it. You don't even have to pay it. Just get the internet and follow yourself some good alternative media people. You won't miss it. Trust me.
Absolutely.
You won't miss it. Not at all. You'll be more in tune with your fellow brother and sister if you follow the alternative media instead of looking at the garbage that's on TV. The garbage that's on TV is programmed as a psyop to scare you. To scare you and to seclude you. So the more scared and secluded you are, the less you want to work with your neighbor. The more you can't wait to get home, close up the door, close up the blinds, and stay in your comfortable little cozy shell.
Yep, and remember, they get their information initiated from the federal government often, and it's filled with scandalous untruths.
Right, and because they repealed the Smith-Mundt Act, it is legal now for the mainstream media to lie to you per the government asking them to. All the government has to do is ask the media to spread a story, to spread a lie, to spread a narrative, and it's completely 100% legal.
And what's the name of that act again?
The Smith-Mundt Act.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That's a great piece of information right there. And that goes down to the federal government. That's just more under the same title, federalization. Everything is being federalized. Everything. The federal government has their fingers in everything.
Including your local police department.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's why I cry out to people, you do not want the federalization of police. This is not what you want. Just like the ranchers, in the West are experiencing no recourse for the overreach of the government, so they're standing up for their rights. If you ask for the federalization of police, we have no recourse in action of any police officer. Whatever he decides will be the final say-so, period. There is no higher authority. So we better shun the day of the federalization of all police officers. That's something that we just do not need.
That's right.
And for my last statement for the night, can I just say, and wrap this up with the reminder so that we don't blanket everything in negativity, the whole government in negativity, and all of the local law enforcement and state law enforcement and representatives. They're not all bad. But
Absolutely.
We have few left willing to speak. But let me remind them, because I know they listen to these shows. I know they're fans, and I know they're still patriots within these organizations. I'm one of them. Let me remind them, the Whistleblower Act is still in effect and will protect you, but you have to have the cojones, and you need to step forward. And when you see wrongdoings, immoral acts, immoral orders being conducted and you're filing away paperwork filled with scandalous material, you need to expose it, and you are covered under the Whistleblower Act, and you need to be able to stand against any retribution, read your regulations, your contracts, and understand that you are also protected against retribution throughout the entire organization under the United States government in all positions, to include soldiers. We still have a voice, and we are right when the wrongs are happening, and we expose it.
That's right.
Use that to your advantage. Study your regulations. They will protect you. That is why I talk.
That's right. We thank you for that, Staff Sergeant Moe, and us soldiers. We gotta definitely stick together. And I know I was just talking to my military brother. He's probably listening right now. Shout out to EP if you're listening, brother. You and your wife. But you know, we have to stick together, and that's why we're also a number one threat and a number one target for the government. You know, you look through their very own paperwork, and they will tell you in times like this who the number one threat is, and it's us. It's us veterans, because we understand unity, we understand cohesion, we understand, you know, all the moral principles that would make a unit function properly to get to a specific goal. We understand that.
Took an oath to protect our America, our
That's
United
right.
States, against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Domestic.
Yes.
And there are laws that protect us to engage in that battle.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we say that also so that the soldiers out there could hear those same words and they can understand, guys, domestic, key word. We've been doing foreign for a long time, and this is a strange time that we're in. I understand it, but the words are what they are, foreign and domestic. So with that being said, Brandon, do you have anything else that you want to say, any positive things that you want to put out there, or just anything in general that you'd like to say and get off your chest before we go ahead and wrap up? Any plugs as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Two things, if I may. I do want to clear up a matter. You know, we took a big hit on our credibility. You know, people said we were lying in regards to the statement David Fry made. I'm going to have Deb Jordan, who was here. She's the one that initiated that call and brought that phone to me. I want to have her clear it up real quick, and then, you know, I just want to make a, you know, just a quick, you know, just to call to action for patriots. You know, it's time to stand together, patriot or not patriot. You know, we as patriots have a duty to do that, but the general citizen, the public citizens out there, it's time to just put differences aside, all the hate, you know. If you're sending me hate email, I mean, it's gotten a lot less lately, but, you know, it just pushes me harder. And, you know, that's just the way it is, and that's the way I'm going to look at it. I'm not going to engage with people that disagree, and I don't think we should be doing that. We should be working towards educating, and we need to all stand together and stop this rhetoric, stop the drama, stop the child grade school bullshit.
That's right.
How many leaders like you have I heard say that over and over every day? Listen, people.
Now's the time.
That's right.
Yeah, so it was late at night about a week and a half ago. We were all staying at the same motel. Brandon and Brooke were in the room next to me, and David Fry's best friend, we'll call him Evan, he reached out to me in a chat room. It was late at night. Pete had been arrested, and so he said that David Fry needed to speak with somebody. He had to get a message out. So I made him go through a couple of, because, you know, you never know when you have trolls in your chat room. So yeah. I asked a question. I said, have him answer this question that only somebody who was down there would know. And he came back with the right answer. And so
good.
I immediately talked to his, I had him send his phone number to my email, Evan, his friend Evan, and spoke with him, and he connected me to David up on the refuge. And I spent a good 20 minutes of that conversation, the first 20 minutes, pleading with him to come down and go ahead and let this take its course and let it be over. And he refused. He acted to me exactly the way he acted the last hour or so of that siege this morning. I wasn't getting anywhere with him, and I was really frightened for his life at that point. I was really frightened for him. So I took the phone over to Brandon, and Brandon spoke with him another good 20, 25 minutes. So indeed, Brandon Curtis did speak with David Fry personally. I know because I gave him the phone and heard the conversation that he had.
Absolutely.
And he pleaded with him. Yes.
Absolutely. I thank you for clearing that up because, you know, a lot of things get said in the heat of the moment, and I think those guys were definitely in the heat of the moment. So, like we said earlier, we don't want to take anything away from them, but, you know, some things they just need to get cleared up, and that's one of the things that need to get cleared up. So I'm glad that you did that for us because, you know, these people on the internet, sometimes they just take things and they really run with it at face value. And, you know, we're all kind of guilty of it sometimes. It happens. But it's a dangerous thing, especially since sometimes you can't get it back.
Well, I'm somebody who worked with Brandon and his organization on a daily basis for the last month. And you know what? He couldn't have been more honorable. Their organization couldn't have been more honorable. They tried their best to bring both sides together. Now, Ammon Bundy has a stubborn streak. There's no doubt about it. He does. And the FBI was not willing at all. At least Ammon Bundy was at least open to negotiations, and the FBI was not. No. And so Brandon was put in a hard spot, just like Pete and I, we were put in a hard spot. We loved the people on the refuge. We loved their message. We didn't agree with what they did. We had a hard time with that. Everybody struggled with that. But there was no doubt in our mind that we had to do everything that we could possibly do with local law enforcement, with the people, to try to soften that and to keep those guys safe, to keep another Waco from happening. And I'll tell you what, that was the biggest fear every single day, that another Waco was being created, and those people were going to get slaughtered. And it was tough. It was tough going, and we had to make choices, and we had to protect them. We felt like it was our duty from the very first day. We said, my God, we can't believe that they did this. It was terrible. And so we posed the question to one another, so do we just abandon them? And it was a resounding no. We can't just abandon them.
Yes.
We had to try to do something, and we did our best. We did the best that we could do with what we had.
And to those that asked the question, where were the PPN and 3%ers? Where were they? I would like to ask another question. Where were you to assist them or any other role on the ground? Where were you? Because it took numbers for a successful end, peaceful end, as well as to allow those to readdress their grievances and educate, help Harney County, as they were doing, all were doing. Ammon Bundy was doing that. He still was working on the Hammond case, and that's how the Hammond files were exposed. But where were the numbers to back the inside, and where were the numbers to back the outside perimeter, what I like to call the diplomatic barrier, the PPN and 3%ers? Where were the numbers if you wanted them to be somewhere to do something effective? Well, where were you?
Absolutely. Yeah, you get a lot of folks that are out there that are talking, and they're just that, a whole bunch of talking. They'll never really show up. Some of them trolls, some of them very real people that have just been brainwashed by the official narrative that's been placed out. So there's a lot of people that will never show up, but there's a lot of good people that could have showed up that, they would just rather go the easy route of having a conversational piece and having something to talk about instead of really showing up to help their brother and sister. And that's what we have to change. We have to make sure that people, just stop wanting to to talk about things and and really get out there and really show up and really support. Find that common ground, that common good, and I believe that's what this whole talk was about, is how we can all come together and collectively find that common good, whether it be economically through that $365 million big idea that I'm talking about, or whether it can be, through a small series of rallies where all the different organizations join together.
A treat for you. Come on.
Hey, Sherrod, can I interrupt you?
Absolutely.
We have a
Hey, we have Pete Santilli on the phone. Can we put him on speakerphone?
Absolutely, you can put Pete on. Absolutely.
There you go. Here you go, Pete.
Hey, what's up, Sincere? I'm a big fan.
Hey, Pete, how you doing, brother? How you holding up?
Holding up well, holding up strong. They keep trying to unload a dump truck full of stuff on me. That means I've been doing my job.
Yeah, and you know what? That means you're doing your job the best.
I got the FBI investigations against me. I think they've exceeded my investigations against them.
Are you able to hear him okay, Sherrod?
Except guess what?
Yes.
Except I'm innocent and they're guilty.
There you go.
Sincere, I wanted to tell you, man, I'm a big fan of yours, dude. Seriously, I've always loved your work. I've never had an opportunity to talk to you until now, but I wanted to tell you how much I admire your work.
Hey, I want to tell you something too, and I haven't had an opportunity to tell you yet. The first time when I put out my Army After Next series, and the fact that you covered it, and I had so many of your fans that actually came to me and say, "Hey, I seen your thing on the Pete Santilli show," and I was like, "Let me check out this Pete Santilli guy." I've been subscribed ever since, so I love your work too, and I'm a big fan of what you guys do there, because anybody seeking for truth and justice, that you have my hands down support 100%.
Well, he's short on time. You're short on time. Speak, Pete. Tell us what you want to tell us.
Talk, Pete, talk.
Listen, I am. Listen, Sincere. Here's the deal. And this isn't just a plea on my behalf. This is a plea on behalf of everyone in independent media. I mean, I've literally pushed the limits of the First Amendment. Okay, I know I have. I've pushed the limits. We must absolutely, positively recognize that everything I've been incarcerated for are the words that have passed my lips. Our freedoms of expression, our freedoms of speech, our desires to take a stand and to rally our fellow Americans to take a stand in defense of our Constitution should not be illegal. Okay, I'm being put in jail because of the dangers that they say that I pose towards society. No, in fact, it's dangers against the people that are in our establishment right now that are doing the wrong thing, particularly the FBI, particularly the BLM, particularly hiding the fact that, like these land issues. We've got civil rights issues, and, also we've been to Baltimore, we've been to Cleveland, we've been to all these cities. The Constitution applies in the inner city where we've been, as well as out in the dirt. These cases against me right now truly are constitutional issues. The First Amendment case through and through. It's really, really important that everyone, whether you agree with me or you like me or you dislike me, it doesn't even matter. The First Amendment shall stand. And if I go down because of my speech, our country's in trouble, sir. I think you agree with that, don't you?
I agree with that 100%, Pete. I have chills on me right now because we've never spoken before, and everybody sitting in that room right with you right now will attest that some of the same words you just said, I have just said in the last 2 hours that we've been speaking, have I not?
Mm-hmm. Yes, he has.
Wow.
Yeah, we all have.
Oh, wow, Pete.
Seriously, I know you can do this. I know you have the determination. I know you have the integrity. Do me a favor, okay? Don't ever let, and I'm not just saying this for me, for selfish reasons. Do you know how many Marines, like Adam Kokesh, like Andrew Tamarisi, dude, I'm on the record fighting for these men that had just gone to the hands of the government, just forgotten, at the hands of the government, but most importantly, the American people. The American people, if they don't have consecutive days, they let it go. We cannot allow our Marines, our veterans that are standing up for our constitutional rights. We can't just let them go off into oblivion. Okay? We have to come together. Now, if it happens in the same fashion that it did with Adam Kokesh, with Andrew Tamariz, with all these others, there was also Brandon Robb as well. He was gone for a month, almost NDA-8. And the American public just forgets about these people. We need to stop doing that. We need to stop that cycle. And if I need to be that one example where people say, you know what, I can't stand Pete Santilli and the way he comes at me, but he has a right to say what he's saying, and I'm going to stand up for this guy. This is injustice. So don't let people that are taking a stand on behalf of all of our constitutional rights, like Brandon Robb did, like Adam Kokesh did, okay? Don't let them go and be forgotten, okay? We have to come together. We got to stick together, and we need to fight this system back because it is evil. I'm reading these complaints that are against me, and they're literally considering my words to be so dangerous that it requires my incarceration. That is frightening. That is like communist China, okay? That is very, very frightening if we allow it to stand.
Amen. Amen.
We agree. We absolutely agree, Pete. And we're not going to let you go down without a fight. We are here just for that reason alone, so that we can stand with you and address these grievances. Listen, you know, like you said, whether people like you, love you, or hate you, that doesn't matter. We're all fighting for the same common purpose. If we lose our ability to free speech, if we lose our journalistic abilities, then where are we as a country? Who are we as a people? How can we ever grow? How can we ever even get to unity into the economic ideas that would help us to prosper together? We can't. So we have to fight, and we have to stand up, because people don't realize this is one of the most major cases in modern U.S. history.
The day that it becomes illegal for somebody like me to call upon my fellow Americans to take a stand for our constitutional rights in defense of peaceful people like in Bundy Ranch, like I did, the day that becomes illegal is a sad day in America. I'm going to tell you that right now. And these are only words. I went to Bundy Ranch without a weapon on me. The only thing I had with me was my mouth. I didn't even have a bullhorn at that time in my live stream. And now they brought an indictment against me on Bundy Ranch. They've got an indictment against me for the same exact thing. Conspiratorially getting together with other people to help save our country. Can you imagine that? It's a conspiracy. It's illegal. And I'm a danger to our society. It's a sad day right now, but we need to stick together as a people. We really, really do.
Yes, we do.
Here, man, I love you. Do that. You know I do. I've been sharing your stuff, and I really appreciate your work. And I hope we all stick together from here on out. We're going to need to.
Yes, sir, and we definitely will. I appreciate your work, too. I appreciate you coming on the All Rights Matter show, Anon Radio, live with us. Thank you, Pete. Your prayers, our prayers are with you, brother. Know that.
Thank you, sir. I've become, I've always been a spiritual man, but, times like these, this is where I've totally submitted to God and said, your will determine exactly how this all pans out. And I've submitted to Him, and I feel comfortable in that. Whatever He wants for all of us through this whole experience, that's what we will have to, of course, live with. But I trust that He's going to do the right thing for all of us.
That's right. That's right, Pete. That's right.
Hey, Pete, we love you, man.
Yes, sir.
We love you, brother.
Hey, Brandon, what's up, dude? Hey, you're just right down the street?
I'm here.
He's here with us.
Awesome. I'm at 7-Eleven. Come knock on my window.
I'll bring you pizza.
A pizza.
Yeah.
Cookies.
Throw me a Butterfingers. Butterfingers are like a big commodity inside here.
Well, we love you, brother, and we're all praying for you, man. And it's good to hear your voice. And hopefully, I get in there to see you Saturday.
Yeah. Are you definitely going to come by?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. I can't wait to see you guys. You and Brooke and Deb.
on the visitors list. Put him on the visitors list.
Yep, he's already on there. I already put you guys on there.
Okay.
You guys were going to be coming. Hey, stay strong, man. Okay.
Hey, it wouldn't happen any other way, man.
Yeah, you stay strong too, Pete. You make sure you keep your head up.
Appreciate your help and your. I take it you met with my attorney today, correct?
Tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow. Okay, fantastic. Dude, I can't wait to see you, man. I love you. You know that.
I know.
I love you too.
We love you, man.
Okay.
Hey, much love, Pete.
Hey, Deb, do you want me to call you back?
There we go.
She's got it. Wow, guys. Wow. That was
Wow.
a treat.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
cool.
Wow.
He doesn't get much time, and even now, he spends it using his voice as a weapon, and for America. He uses the very little time he has. 20 hours now is what he's still going to be isolated to, and the little time he has on the phone is he gives to you. He gives to patriots. He gives to all of America, all Americans.
That's right. And that's a perfect way to put that in perspective. To all Americans, he's still giving that time. And that's the power of a voice. When a man is sitting behind bars just for using his voice, we're seeing this from this tyrannical government over and over again. It has to stop. This is a clear-cut case of them overreaching yet again. And Pete should not be sitting behind those bars. We all know that. Anybody with common sense, logic, or heart and knows a little bit about the law knows he should not be sitting there.
You know, and we're going on 2 hours, and we've covered so much information, and this has just been hopefully a powerful show. It has been for me, and I hope it has been for others. But I want to close on this note. We just heard from Pete, who's sitting behind bars for exercising his First Amendment right. So we just heard from him live on the telephone call from his cell. So what more is it going to take for everyone to get up, stop the damn bickering, and start working together so this does not keep happening? Period.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
He's not behind bars thinking about all that drama.
Well, guys, I tell you this. Let's not make this our last. Let's make sure that we do this again.
Absolutely.
It would be our pleasure.
And we need to go ahead and we'll talk off of off of the show, and we'll figure some things out. But a unified voice is the beginning of a presence that the people need to see, and I believe that we can pioneer some interesting things from our standpoints and our viewpoints, and really set a platform for people to understand what true unity is. So I appreciate you guys. Matter of fact, I want to make sure everybody gets their plugs in, because I know you guys are still doing things over there on the Pete Santilli channel, YouTube, Brandon. I know you have some things going on, so guys, throw the plugs out there for the listeners so everybody can know how to contact you and reach you.
I'll do Deb's for her.
I mean, as always, at our website, www. I think I got too many W's in there, but either way, %idaho.org, and we try to keep that updated. It has not been updated in the last couple weeks because we've been so inundated. There is a donation link there. We operate off donations, and that's how we do what we do, and we appreciate everyone that's donated, whether it's monetarily or with support or just words of encouragement from emails or messages. You can also reach us on Facebook.
And for the Pete Santilli show, I'm just going to put this plug in for Deborah and Pete. Just go to the YouTube channel, or you could type in the PeteSantilliShow.com, and you'll find the donation link there. They need to keep those donations coming in, not only for the current situation that they're enduring, but this money will profit all of you and all of the media. We need media to support this First Amendment battle right now. And this is something that we can unite funds to one day for fighting the First Amendment rights of all media. And keep that first line of defense available at all times, because just like the 3 Percenters, the Pete Santilli Show always operates off gifts and donations. And and the only way that Deb can still be here, there's a lot of overhead. There is a lot going to the legal issues. There's a lot that needs to go to his commissary. So he can make calls like this and speak live or recordings. And that costs him money at his end and Deb's end. These are very expensive phone calls. They don't make it easy. And there's just a ton of things going on to keep Deb above water and the bills paid and the lights on. And I guess now the prison light's on. We got to pay for that now, okay? And we got to do that as a community.
So, and I just want to say, sincere, I know I put my plug out, but I'm asking everyone to go help Deb out with what Staff Sergeant Moe said. She needs our support, so let's all step up and do that.
Absolutely, and I just to double down on that or triple down on that, I'm going to include a link here underneath the video. You guys make sure you inbox me the exact link, and I will include that in the description section of this YouTube video where this will be posted by tomorrow. So you guys that are watching this as a video, go down to the description section below the video and make sure you check out that link. Make sure you're helping out Deb and Pete Santilli. They can use you in this, this heavy time right now. So we're all in the same fight together. I want everybody chipping in. Everybody that's following me on the Who Is Sincere channel, chip in. If you're following on the Pete Santilli channel, chip in. This is how you take care of your fellow brother and sister. Maybe you can give up that pack of cigarettes today or that 6-pack this weekend and just chip in $5 or $10. Everything helps, So make sure you do that. I'm all about community, helping community.
Yeah, and I'll send you my link too for my PayPal.
Okay, absolutely.
To hook me up. Yeah, Brandon will take care of me.
Okay, absolutely. Listen, Brandon, we appreciate you, Staff Sergeant Moe. Appreciate everything that you're doing there and standing up. It's just excellent, your energy there. Deb, I know she's, off talking to Pete right now. We appreciate her coming on.
She's back.
She's back.
Oh, she's back. Okay.
She's back.
Yeah.
We appreciate you, Deb. Thank you. We know you have a lot going on right now and dealing with peace, so our prayers and support are certainly behind you 100% as you're going through that situation.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And is there any final thing that you guys want to say? This is your show, not mine. It's just, the All Rights Matter show, and everything you have to say really matters the most. So is there anything else you want to say?
Yep, just thanks for having us on. Thanks for giving us a voice, giving us this time. This is how we win. This is how we do it. So we really appreciate it. And, it's time for us all to join together and voice and be a voice, because if we don't, the world is going to change. Our country is going to change. If we don't join together and we don't become one voice, then the America that we once knew is going to go away. So, thanks a lot, Shrub. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, it's no problem at all, Deb. Thank you. And I don't think that could have been more eloquently said. So with that, guys, that concludes the All Rights Matter show here on Anon Radio Live. Make sure you download our app below. Make sure when you're downloading our app, you also look there for the link to Brandon's site for the Idaho 3%ers. And also the most important link that you're going to find below this YouTube video is actually going to be the support for Deb and Pete. So thanks again, everybody, for listening. And as always, stay alert, stay alive. Have a good night, guys.
Night.
Night.